Dear friends, it's the last day in April and tomorrow is a revolutionary day. That's the 1st of May. Okay? That is the revolutionary day that is celebrated by the communists of our world. Do you know what's on the icon for Austria and Hitler and the Rothschilds that own the whole of Austria now? Yeah? They set up their central bank in Vienna. They had the incumbents in Austro-Hungaria killed, 2 generations of them. Yeah, and that is the Franz Ferdinand songs that are sung about by the Scottish revolutionaries now. Yeah, that is the killing of the Archduke on the Hume Bridge in Sarajevo. That's Jim Hume, the pacifist philosophers of the borders, yeah, who had the bridge named after them, yeah, in Sarajevo, that sparked World War I. All of it was done way in advance. The killing of the Archduke's son is the Mayerling incident, and I'm going to play that to you now before it gets taken down from the internet for all time. So that's the Rothschilds who run all wars, who are launched out of Bavaria, where they were still called the Bears, and all of the Aryan names that are associated with them through all of human history. They're not on the Forbes rich list. It's an absolute abomination. Right then, so the Austrian anthem. Yeah, let's see it, and let's look at the pictures, and let's look at the double-headed eagle that they share with Russia and the communists, and the hammers on their shields that they shared with the communists by funding Karl Marx and Engels, yeah, out of the Rothschild family coffers, training them in London like Stalin, yeah, who was trained and ended up fleeing from London after the Sydney Street riots, when Stalin was allowed to escape and Winston Churchill was pointing a gun round the corner of the building, yeah, right next door to Zionist Tottenham Hotspur, which is the cover for the Bank of England being in Cheapside and the Jewish cemeteries being all over that region of London. Yeah, and that is the spurs for the Roman Empire. Yeah, that is the SPQRS joke that is on all of the Gladiators movies and is on the Roman shield with the double-headed eagle, yeah, and the eagle for Taze Russell, the false Christian. Yeah, that's the Jehovah's Witness, one of the newest religions. All of them are mafias run by the Rothschilds, and the Russell Group run the university fraud. Right then, it's a lovely story, and that's the only picture on the internet since I discovered it yesterday now remaining of the Hunting Lodge Gostling and Yibs, yeah, Scheibs, so that you get the Hibs joke. The woman Petrie has been walking anxiously past my door. Yeah, that's Malcolm Petrie's mum. That is Petrie of Hibs. Yeah, that is the Scottish football jokes and all of the division. Hibs and Hearts operate out the corrupted SS place that is Edinburgh. Yeah, that's where Gordon Brown was the Chancellor of their university, and Hitler started his campaign in Brunswick in Germany. That's Brunswick in Canada for Beaverbrook, the munitions magnate and the propagandist for Churchill and the 3 wise men that were Stalin, FDR and Churchill. FDR's bloodline, like Michael Ancram's, is the Pilgrim Fathers out of Leiden. Yeah, the Dutch mafias. Okay, no pictures of the Hunting Gosling thing. Yeah, let me first show you the residues of that joke for Hitler. This is the secret society goose stepping. No, let's get the I was going to play you the Sound of Music, but this is the national anthem for Austria. with the Österreich Easter egg jokes all wrapped into it. All of the Jesus birthplace. The birthplace for Hitler is Am Inn, on the Innsbruck River, on the Bruck River through Austria. It's the birthplace for Arnie Schwarzenegger. It's the birthplace for Archbishop Hudal. It's the birthplace for Pope Benedict, and all of it is a massive joke. Pope Benedict was a Hitler Youth member. He used to engage in festivities like you're seeing there, Goose Step Parade 1935. Yeah, it's the name of the house, and on the Rothschilds archive, yeah, I cannot show you that too closely. Let me take the plug out. Okay, there is the Rothschild family archive, and very quickly I'm going to show you that that is the Hunting Lodge Gostling and WW1 Scheibs Austria. Yeah, that is the lodge built for Albert De Rothschild at the end of the 19th century in the lead up to World War I, and I'm going to explain all of the manipulation of that. Okay, in combination with the English cottage style popular at that time in Lower Austria. Yeah, the Bank of England went 200 years ago in 1815. Yeah, that is the Michael Ancram celebrations, and all of it is coming out just one day before that revolutionary day. Okay, so let me put the plug back in so that we can go back to it and tell you more stories about Clive of India and all of their pan-continental ownership issues. Right then, the Austrian national anthem, in case we get copyrighted for it. Yeah, it's a massive giveaway. Just look at the icons for communism. Yeah, and the red Rothschild shield in the middle. So, the ostrich joke. Yeah, that is the eagle for the Roman Empire, for Taze Russell, for Jehovah's Witnesses, and on and on and on it goes. And the Austro-Hungarian owners and the Archdukes of that region were both taken out, 2 generations of them, so that this family, yeah, out of Wadsden, out of Aston Clinton, and all the places that they're absolutely proud of in that archive, yeah, all of them are going to be exposed in the next few days if I'm allowed to live that long. Yeah, these are the owners of the whole world. They run all wars and get funded by all sides, and all of the poor people get killed in millions. Every conflict, every revolution, every Christian mission, and now the Islamic terror, yeah, is coming out of the Constantinople, Sarajevo region again, with the half moon and the Turkish hat for the Freemasons, like Tommy Cooper. Yeah, it is absolutely relentless. It's the only thing that the politicians and Miss Manningham Buller and the heads of MI6 can rely on now. The demonisation of the institutions and religions that the PISO family created in these countries. Okay, so, and the names of the central banks in Italy, the Villa Pignatelli, yeah, run by Kalman Rothschild, and the names of the Austrian banks and all of the houses, yeah, there is the Hippolyti, yeah, the Piso hippos are in the story through Austria and Vienna. It takes right into Brazil and the Van Rompuy stories with the owners of the Rothschild mansions and all of the people called Adolf who cover up in the Rothschild bloodline. The fact that Adolf Hitler was a Rothschild too, like Stalin. It's absolutely relentless. Okay, let's keep going. Never heard this tune until this morning. sorry, that is not the one I watched earlier. I'm really sorry, but that's going to take a little bit more time. But I need to find it because it's got all the icons and it's got the lyrics in German that are the giveaway. Okay, National Anthem, Austrian National Anthem. Let's try that and see if we get any hits. So there it is. Yeah, there it is. Heimat großer Tochterdund Sun. So we can watch that one, and it's the land of Berg. This is the iceberg joke. It's the Solberg joke in the Usual Suspects movie. Yeah, and it is massive. Yeah, there is, in the hands of the eagle, the communist hammer. Yeah, and immediately after World War I, there was a revolution in Vienna to get more of the poor people down. That's all of the returning troops. They repeat that all over the continent of Europe for World War I and World War II, and that is the second explosion of Mount Etna at the foot of Italy. Yeah, and all of that is repeated in England and all across the continents, and 20 million people were killed in Russia alone under the label communist. Yeah, it's not at all funny. Okay, so let's watch the one now with the lyrics and the interpretation of it. Yeah, this is the translation into English, and it's the Bundessong, Bundeshymn. Land of church spires. Yeah, Australia, Austria, the Aryan master races. The life of Brian comes behind them. Yeah, and that is Brian the snail. Every night before BBC News, it is the Jeddah snails and all of the links of Jedburgh and Hawick to the treason, to the double agents and the spying in World War II, and even the parachute launches out of Jedburgh and the irregulars there. Yeah, the Hawick crime scene is much worse. Yet their vehicles have been flying past my window since I exposed the Curries and all of their treasonous acts and all of the biggest secrets of the world that mean that the male gender are the only people that are allowed to participate in the PISO horse riding to the top of the mountains in Hawick. Yeah, the women are left out, like the women cannot be aristocrats or queens in Germany. That's why Queen Victoria became the Queen in England. It's a Freemasonic laugh, like everything else that I've told you in recent days, and the swastika for Hitler Rothschild was the Masons' icon. Yeah, that's the working men of Hawick, slaves to all of the corrupted politicians that are the bloodlines that own the whole world now. I'll be seeing them at the Sevens today unless I get arrested by the local police. Yeah, the superintendent has his headquarters in Hawick, and it was a woman last time I looked. All of them get my emails, all of them have sent me receipts, none of them take action on any of the frauds and the war crimes that I've reported. I will not stop doing that until they take me down, like the Archduke and his son in Austro-Hungaria. The killing of 80 million people so that the Rothschilds can become the owners of Austria. And the lovely movies that are made about the Von Trapp family singers, who are led by the man who is Detweiler. He is now the leading producer of drones to kill people on different continents because they're innocent and their continent does not yet belong to this cabal. Yeah, did you know that Detweiler Macdonald are the biggest drone producing companies in the world? Okay, the land of the Christian spires, almost with the word PISO in it, not quite. Yeah, Yeah, and that's the steeplechase jokes for the horsey fans and the racecourse people. And the person that we talked about as being the maid and the whipping boy, that is the Queen Mother. She is from the downstairs sector of the palaces. Yeah, because the real woman that was doomed to be the stammering king's wife was not prepared to live her life with that imbecilic person that is the stammering king that made the Windsor joke. Yeah, just to let them know, Bertie, that it was us. Yeah, 45 million people in that joke, dead as dodos, and then they become the Poppy Fund, and then they become the British Legion for the profiteers, who are Britain's richest people, but they're not really Britain's richest people. That is just the Westminsters, who are prepared, like Lady Marielle Jane Grosvenor, to take the fall for all of the genocides, yeah, and let Michael Ancram loose. Yeah, right then. Guy Innes-Ker is much meeker than him. He will not utter a word to me now, since he promised to give me time at the War Memorial 3 years ago. Yeah, I've not had a meeting to him. I have been to ask his staff if I can have that meeting. I've asked them if I can walk with him, with people of their choosing, to make sure that I'm safe as houses, that I'm not carrying weapons. Yeah, like the people that broke into that massive house with the goose-stepping name and murdered the son of Archduke, I forget what his name was, who was killed by mysterious people like John F. Kennedy in a cavalcade with an open-topped car. Yeah, it's absolutely repeating that the people that want to free the world and retain ownership of their own democracies, even their own fascist-run regime, they just get under the heels of Hitler's goose-stepping Rothschild family. Right then. Sons now are the 5 arrows. Yeah, that's the joke about the Rothschilds and King Harold and the company for Clare Rothschild called Harold, with the Rothschild arrows in his eyes. Do you get it? It's the famous 5 for Enid Blyton. Easter egg. Just a tiny step from Australia. The Aryan master race. End of story. First time I've ever heard it. Thanks for watching. Yeah. Okay. Right then. So when the war ended, there was a revolution there. Can you see how the communist thing is used to demonize everything? Every one of the Chinese communists now in power are massive millionaires, total slaves to this cabal. Right then, so let's close that one because we need this airspace, and I'll show you Hitler's goose-stepping joke. Yeah, I still don't get it entirely how the goose is linked into this, but that in the Corrie's output is the Gooseman story. Yeah, yeah, and it is all of the geese and all of the stories about the goose laying the golden egg. And that is part of the Indian, the character that plays the owner of the goose that lays the golden egg is in the Indian Empire for the Rothschild family, and Queen Victoria, their illegitimate leader of that empire. Yeah, and all of Clive's suicidal behaviours. Okay, Clive of India committed suicide in the home that was Queen Victoria's favourite location, presumably because the Rothschilds were not allowed to shag her under date rape drugs there, and to block her memory with atropinic drugs, as they sired all of the illegitimate kings and queens all across Europe entirely for profit. Right then, so and that has not shown us much of their icons, but let's get on with the story. Okay, here's the hunting lodge. Yeah, and when you look for it, that's the only image. It's an absolutely beautiful place in Austria. That's the Tyrol for the death of all of the Scottish kilties that are in those songs by Andy Stewart. Yeah, that's the Stuart revolutionaries. The Herzogs in Germany are now the claimants to the Stuart throne in Scotland. That could be the start of World War IV for all we know. All of the Masons think it up in the lodges, and it ends in massive conflicts, and all of them tucking away their illicit take from that, yeah, and meeting their friends in the lodge. Almost everybody in the Scotland is enslaved by that Masonic commitment. All of the diversionary sports. So none of the other images are about that place. Yeah, since I discovered it yesterday. Okay, and this is where the son of the Archduke, yeah, that was murdered in Sarajevo. He was murdered there with his lover. Yeah, and all of it is just the type of story that you see in Rupert Murdoch's papers today. All of the false news and the policing is by the PISO family ancestors, and I showed you yesterday all of the evidence about Gormley. Philip Gormley, the new head of the United Force, can be found nowhere on the internet since I exposed him, and I've received 3 writs from the police, yeah, and from the judiciary in different jurisdictions, because I now have totally pinned the corrupted government, the corrupted local council, the corrupted sheriffdom in the Scottish borders. So now the sheriffdom that they are using and abusing me with is in Glasgow, where Michael Moore, where Kevin Moore interlocks with Michael Ancram and runs the assassination bureau that killed Richard Chang and made Stephen Hester, the assassin, flee from the Euston Road bank that he used to work in. Right then, yeah, that was after a period of service with the RBS on the asylum that used to be Gogarburn, on the outskirts of the speculative society's Edinburgh. That's Gordon Brown's corrupted Edinburgh SS. Right then, so let's see whether or not we've got other images that you might like to see in that useless search for that one place that has got all of those links to St Abbs, yeah, the Hibs Football Club and the Petrie fraudsters. Right then, and beautiful, beautiful alpine locations. It's worth fighting for, but none of the elite families do the fighting. That is the joke about the Pi PISO pinstripes for the Forbes Rich List members, who are the bosses at BMW, their pharma bosses, and all of the Ellison dynasty came out of Frankfurt, and all of the Rothschild dynasty came out of the massive place that where the central banks and the European central banks now are, and that is the ghettos of Frankfurt. Yeah, and it started to snow again, and it is not a surprise to me. It's a shocking, shocking story about greed and eternal mass murders for the ownership of all of the places near Hitler's nest that were sang about by the Von Trapp family singers as they fled to neutral Switzerland, and they were forced to join the Navy for Austria, which is in Bremer Haven, that's the Bremner jokes for Rory Bremner, who now owns the massive places, yeah, on the Roman road where my sister lives. Yeah, all of them were coerced into the RBS frauds by Fred Goodwin, who Hester succeeded as the boss at the RBS, and all of the asset stripping of all of the savings and the pensions of every one of the stupid people who are sports fans now, yeah, and the asset stripping of all of their fisheries by the elite families that are the Kerrs, the Ancrams, and the Guy Innes Kerrs, who have taken away almost all of the fishing that was free to the local people. That is the Teviot Valley, that is the world's biggest secrets. Yeah, and the Hutchisons, who are related to the American presidents, were the secretaries of the fishing club when all of that asset stripping took place. That's Charlie Hutchison. Yeah, he lent me his fishing basket, and all of them gave me a really hard time when I returned from New Zealand. Yeah, that is the relatives of George W. Bush. Yeah, totally committed to the cover-up of all of these scams against the war dead. Yeah, even the dispossessing of the local people who they represent in Scotland. Yet their relatives work in the Borders College, yet they are slaves to Michael Moore when Michael Moore was still respectable. None of them have respectability now. And all of them are prepared to say that my wife from Chipping Norton, which is the British government and Cameron's connection to Michael Ancram through the marital roots, none of them are prepared to reveal the correct departure date for my wife's treasonous actions on behalf of the Chipping Norton set, who run the whole world out with democracy now. And the police, and all of the Gormley Stephen House jokes and the false referendum is run by Alex Salomon Rothschild. Right, so this is the joke as it emerges into World War II, once they have sparked World War I with it. It's pissing down now. Yeah, it's been a beautiful sunlit morning. This is so that's the global Freemasonic icon right up to 1939 when Hitler pished all over it. Yeah, that is the swastika for the global Freemasons. When I visited wealth divided India, where all of those massacres were done by Clive of India, yeah, I visited Goa, which is a massive massacre scene. It's now an elite haven for all of the posh people. Yeah, the professoriate in the chemistry world were there partying on the beach. Yeah, and all of it could be openly owned by democracies all across the world, but they're too powerful to let that happen. Yeah, Goose Step Parade, 1935, the naming of the villa which launched World War I in 1914. Yeah, just after the Rothschilds built that massive mansion, yeah, with that name, in beautiful Alpine Austro-Hungaria, the spark point for both wars. Yeah, isn't it funny? Yeah, and the French Rothschilds have massive listings of massive palatial buildings that become the European financial centres all over France, right next door to Basel. Do you recognise the goose stepping that Basil Fawlty does with the little Hitler moustache icon? Yeah, as he goose steps through the Basil Fawlty Hotel. Yeah, goose steps through, and Marcos Manuel is Emmanuel in the Bible. He is Marcos Manuel, the only legitimate son of Queen Victoria. The world's biggest secret, apart from the Rothschild ownership of every continent on our globe. Every central bank, all of them have gone. They work and they train with my wife in Hertfordshire and all of my friends in that region, including the Bretts of Esher, yeah, which was Queen Victoria's favourite palace, and all of the stuff about God taking out the people who cannot have male children to satisfy the rules of succession. Yeah, so they need to resort to rape and pillage, even in the bedrooms of the kings and queens, and that happens right into Princess Diana's regime, and it's the in-laws that do the murdering, and it's the cops in London who are the PISO POLIS who do the fudged inquests, and Michael Ancram and Malcolm Rifkind and all of them are war criminals, and it's coming after them now. All of the poor and ordinary people now who have been impoverished, even the rugby players, are taking on revolutionary tendencies, and I thank you, all of you, for that. It's all that needs to happen. The pinstripe pie suits are outnumbered by the war dead. Now the war dead can read and write. They don't need to be the war dead. They can become the democratic electorate that does the real job. We have all of the institutional background now to free the world and to have civilization within a year. Yeah, all of it, including the activities in the Masonic lodges, are official secrets. That's the speculative society in Edinburgh, run out of Edinburgh University, where Gordon Brown was the Chancellor, and it's no surprise to me that his son dies really prematurely, is disabled at birth. Okay, let's watch a little bit more. This is the 1939 Olympics for Hitler. So do you get the Basel faulty jokes now? That's the Bank of International Settlements, which has become the Department of Business, Innovation and Skills to cover up the government crimes in Westminster in the last 18 months. Yeah, run by the little Indian guy. Yeah, and all of it is a mass crime against the world's people. All of the great conflicts are driven by the same super rich families. Yeah, only 4 more steps to go. Yeah, that's Lady Jane Grosvenor, and she's now married to the Norfolk based people that were on the clock face in the story written by John Buchan, who are the Tweedsmuirs and the Governor Generals in Canada. That is the lead up to World War II, the 39 steps to their greatest triumphs, and that is the Nazi gold in the Bank of International Settlements, and it's still fucking there in Switzerland, in Basel. Yeah, the Basel faulty, Emmanuel and Marcus Manuel, the son of Queen Victoria jokes. Yeah, and Hitler is a Rothschild and Stalin is a Rothschild, and all of it is a relentless joke against the war dead. And all of that is a profiteering, and now the Queen runs the ceramic poppies operation. It was in last year's Christmas speech, and Christmas is a joke. That's why they have the letter X at the front, because there never was a Jesus. Right then, and we've revealed all of the involvement of the Rothschilds, all of the coloration of the Rothschild family when they became Knights of the Realm, and all of that black and white movie was turned into colour, like the little red girl, yeah, in Schindler's List, and all of the jokes about Ralph Fiennes and the woman being called Helen Hirsch being a Rothschild ancestor. It's absolutely sickening. Yeah, and all of their fine buildings, yeah, that they've been foolish enough and vain enough to reveal were theirs, are now being destroyed by guess who? Bomber Harris out of Hertfordshire. Yeah, that's the Harrises of Butlins. That is the neighbours of the Rothschilds. And I learned yesterday that the Potter's joke is a Rothschild's family link. That is the Potter, Dr. Potter, who I met in Hemel Hempstead. That means that's God in. It means that Hemel Hempstead is there is no God joke. Yeah, and Gotten Himmel in Germany is God in heaven. Okay, and I first met Dr. Potter, who was the nerve gas scientist, yeah, on the green above, right next to Rothamsted, where they still work on nerve gases, but they've been diverted for panic reasons into the global warming fraud run by Bill Clinton, who's the Queen's half-brother. Isn't it a lovely story? Okay, I could show you more of that 2 minutes and 15 seconds, but I'm going to show you, before they take it down, that the incident at Mayerling is not my imagination. Okay, this is the shocking event that was the killing of the son and heir to the Archduke in Sarajevo, so that the Rothschilds could entirely take over the whole of Austria. Okay, so there's the hunting lodge. There are no pictures. Okay, let's get rid of that. There's the Rothschild Central Bank story. Let's have a look at that. Okay, Rothschild banking family of Austria. Wikipedia. The Rothschild banking family of Austria was founded by Salomon, not Rothschild, not Alex Salomon, but the Mayerling Jokes. Do you get it? Salomon Mayer von Rothschild in 1820 in Vienna. In 1929 the family's credit Anstalt was central to the banking collapse that ran the Great Depression, that launches every war that I told you about in yesterday's videos. Yeah, that's in leafy London, it's in leafy America. That is the Lend-Lease scams for FDR the Christian from Holland in the mafias, yeah, like Ancram's family, trained in Leiden. Yeah, and all of it is the same joke about divide and conquer with the launch of false messianic religions. Yeah, Rothschild's control of central banks, 9/11 inside job. Salomon Mayer Rothschild goes to Vienna, Austria, and sets up the bank, M. von Rothschild, and so on, 1811. The charter for the Rothschild banks, that's Vienna, the capital of Austria. Yeah, Österreich in the Easter egg jokes for Jesus, who had no room at Innsbruck. Yeah, in all of the jokes about Pope Benedict being born in within range of the River Inn. The history of the House of Rothschild, Jeff Rents. I've never been allowed to contact him by Gmail, who are run by the government, run by Andy Coulson and Rebecca Brooks. That's Rebecca Brooks from the Innsbruck joke. No room at the inn for Valerie Jane Lees and the Hexham traitors to the children of the world. Yeah, all of those songs about Jesus, no room at the inn, is the joke that the PISOs launched, that Jesus never existed. Okay, Rothschild history. Paris, Frankfurt, Naples and Vienna to establish their great banking houses. In Naples, the home of the Rothschild family was the Villa Pignatelli. Pignatelli is now the boss at Strathclyde University. I've met him. Fat Italian bastard. Yeah, all of the profiteers in pharma that work in that university, they've started fires. Their neighbours in Glasgow are run by Kalman Rothschild. Still, that's Kenneth Kalman, who was a profiteering ally of mine before I went to New Zealand, and I now realise that the whole of New Zealand is owned by the same families. Yeah, that's the Rothschild Trust in Auckland, and everything I've told you about the woman Yeah, the links to all of those massive little cis stories and all of the business registered all across that land. Yeah, and I love Hayley Westenra, that is the sun god story, and her song about painting the moon black, yeah, since I left, is absolutely sparking my emotional tears every time I listen to it. Yeah, it's about the sun god and the total displacement of those people by these ruthless, murderous families. Rothschild Group, independent investment banking organisation providing financial services to government, corporations and individuals worldwide. Right then, so you get it. That's Salomon, yeah, Alex Salomon, Mayer von Rothschild in 1820 Vienna, 5 years after the Waterloo scam in London, yeah, and then you get the sparking of World War I 1 century later. Yeah, and this is the MAYERLING incident. Do you get it now? Yeah, let's listen to the MAYERLING incident, just in case you think I'm making it up. And this could get me censored on the video, but I'm prepared to take that risk. Okay, it's a lovely looking farm, just like the Germanic farms all across the borders and all across Scotland. Yeah, with those funny little towers that they have in Portugal and Spain, just as around the time that the Windsors kill King Carlos I, so that all of the Spanish colonies and the Portuguese colonies in North Africa can be sequestered by the same Windsor family that are the Saxe Coburgs of Germany. Take you back to the butchers of Cumbria and all of the people that flee to Berkhamsted to live their lives in peaceful and posh locations right next to the massive mansions of the Rothschilds at Waddesdon, yeah, where the holy relics for Jesus are held by Miss Hannah Rothschild, the person who has tried to get me banged up by the Charing Cross police. Yeah, that's the Charing Cross joke. Yeah, that there ever was a Christian cross and a sacrificial man called Jesus. Yeah, that's the Emmanuel joke in the Xmas story. Right then, just to let you know that this is real and actually was the killing of the Archduke in Sarajevo's son, so that there were no heirs to Austria other than the Rothschilds.
Rudolf of Austria and his lover Baroness Mary Westenra. Rudolf was the only son of Emperor Franz Joseph I of Austria and Empress Elizabeth, and heir to the throne of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. Rudolf's mistress was the daughter of Baron Albert Westenra, a diplomat of the Austrian court. The bodies of the 30-year-old Archduke and the 17-year-old Baroness were discovered in the Imperial Hunting Lodge at MAYERLING in the Vienna woods, 15 miles southwest of the capital, on the morning of January 30, 1889. The death of the Crown Prince had momentous consequences for the course of history in the 19th century. It had a devastating effect on the already compromised marriage of the imperial couple and interrupted the security inherent in the immediate line of Habsburg dynastic succession. As Rudolf had no son, the succession would pass to Franz Joseph's brother, Karl Ludwig, and his issue, Archduke Franz Ferdinand. This destabilization endangered the growing reconciliation between the Austrian and the Hungarian factions of the empire, which became a catalyst of the developments that led to the assassination of the Archduke and his wife Sophie by Gavrilo Princip, a Yugoslav nationalist and ethnic Serb at Sarajevo in June 1914, and the subsequent drift into the First World War. Incident. By 1889, many people at the court, including Rudolf's parents and his wife Stephanie, knew that Rudolf and Mary were having an affair. His marriage to Stephanie was not a particularly happy one, and had resulted in the birth of only one daughter, Elizabeth, known as ERZSI. On January 29, 1889, Franz Joseph and Elizabeth gave a family dinner party prior to leaving for Buda, in Hungary, on January 31st. Rudolph excused himself, claiming to be...
So that's one reason why Father Jack says the word Ers all the time. E-R-S-Y. Yeah? All of it is the interlocking jokes about religion and the false messiahs. Yeah, and did you hear the Princess Sophie name? That's Princess Sophie, who's alleged in the stories about the British royals to have been raped on the prima nocte night after her marriage to one of the English princes. Yeah, I think it's the weedy little one. Yeah, and all of them are picked for their homosexuality and all of the massive manipulation of the bloodlines who get to own the whole world as a Muppet show. Okay, let's take you on to the Rothschilds' mistakes in archiving all of this. Yeah, there's the Von Trapp family singers and the Edelweiss song. It's been snowing all through the weekend. Yeah, do you get it? The central banks all over the world are now owned by the same families. Yeah, the Rockefellers are also from the Alpine region. The jokes about McAlpine and the jokes about Al Pacino are all out of that region. And the joke about David Bowie is that the Bowies are the Celtic region on the Cisalpine side of the Italian Alps. Yeah, and that's why Greg Hallett is launching the stories about David Bowie and the religious fraud. It's as simple as the nose on your face. Right then. So, the Sound of Music. Do you get it? The Detweilers that were the man who is the profiteer, who tries to get them to sing for profit. Yeah, he now is the owner of the massive drone companies that they used to assassinate Bin Laden, the friend of Cambridge University and the pinstripe wearer that visited Cambridge several times in his life. Yeah, he's got a massive filthy rich family, and that is the bin lorry driver now, and all of the executions of him by Hillary Clinton using the drones in front of the telly in the White House. Yeah, Obama is part of the massive fraud, and he's in the elite bloodlines too. Yeah, all of them link and are related to Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton and the Normandy connection. Yeah, that's the significance of Tom Hanks Rockefeller and the Normandy beaches. Let's get on with the Rothschilds' mistake in archiving this. I'm going to have to put up, okay, and I think that is, so the Google images of the Rothschild central banks. No, let's see what we get when we get central banks globally. Or let's look at the images of Rothschild mansions, which are now the financial institutions all over the globe. Yeah, do you get it? Aston Clinton, that is Bill Clinton, the Queen's wife, the Aston Martin for James Bond, the Fleming linkages to the treason in all wars, and Fleming living in the Havens now with Sean Connery. It's absolutely massive. Yeah, and Bomber Harris brings down the buildings in World War II, and Dresden is flattened by Churchill, who's the mercenary man who for generations have been the religious conscripts and mercenaries for William and Mary of Orange. They were gifted Blenheim for their massive massacres in Germany, yeah, where Christian fights against Christian all of the time. Yeah, all over the world. There's page after page after page. There's Jacob, Hannah's dad. He's now in league with the Rockefellers, and that's Tom Hanks in the bloodline. Yeah, and all of that killing on that bloody Normandy beach. They went back for the 70-year anniversary. Prince Charles and Camilla and all of the royal jokers that have been abused by them since Queen Victoria was raped by the King of Kings. Yeah, there's a decrepit one. That's what they allowed to happen when the truth gets out about the real owners and the Adolfs that live in them. Yeah, as the cover for Adolf Rothschild, Hitler, and the swastika for the global Freemasons. Right, so I'll get that down now and I'll put you onto the other computer and I'll show you the Rothschild's mistakes. It's in the Devil's Advocate movie that if you use vanity and you proclaim what you're going to do and they see you coming, it can be really dangerous. Hannah Rothschild, yet the fan of the Iraq genocide and the really powerful politics at that time, which are really funny when you laugh at it, in your interviews as a filmmaker, who's prepared to have me arrested for revealing the world's greatest secrets about the world's biggest ever genocides. That's the Christian genocides and the banking genocides. Okay? Thank you to the Christians who have given me the evidence about the Church of Scotland buildings and the ownership of those by the Bonner laws, and all of the things that have been delivered to my door this morning. It's the spire jokes that you've just seen in Germany. It's the Chalmerses, it's the treason of the Braveheart film all over again. Sorry, this is my oldest computer given me by the Freemasons of Sunderland University. Okay, and there we have the Rothschild family, Hunting Lodge Gostling and WW1 Scheibs Austria. This lodge was built for Albert De Rothschild at the end of the 19th century, when Queen Victoria was married to Albert Saxe Coburgs the Proof. That is the bigamous marriage, and all of the Rothschilds signing all of Queen Vic's children, bar John Brown's child and Marcos Manuel's child, that was raised on the Isle of Wight, right opposite the defected Michael Ancram relatives who live in the Southampton region, right next to Portsmouth, where Simon Day was raised, and that is Camilla's illegitimate bastard child. Right then, the Rothschild archive, let's get it on screen. They will very much regret that they have publicised their own genocides, just before Bomber Harris flattened all of their crime scenes. They have huge numbers of houses in Frankfurt that are huge. They have the Munich and the Berlin options, and all of it is totally shameful. Output to monitor. I'm monitoring things ever so carefully. Right then. So there is the Hunting Lodge. There is the Hunting Lodge in all of its grandeur, right on top of the hill, right near Hitler's nest in Austria, that was driven to, in all of those Mercedes vehicles that were given to Hitler. Mercedes now run the scams of the .com empire in New Zealand, that brings tears to my eyes every time I think about New Zealand and its beauty and the power of their sporting heroes. All of them are totally besotted with sport. None of them realise that their whole country, and it's so beautiful that it brings tears to my eyes every time I watch Hayley Westenra's music. Okay, so this is the Rothschild family archive. Their biggest mistake. And I explained yesterday how when you work your way down through the tabs about the Esher buildings, which were Queen Victoria's favourite places, which was where Clive of India planned to bring his treasures back from the Asian continent that has been totally taken over by these elite families, English-speaking families like the Clintons and the Windsors. And thank you to my neighbours for helping me with the linguistic translations. Yeah, from the Episcopalian Church, the most powerful church in the world. Okay, right then. So, let me show you a little bit more about what these are prepared to release in their private archives. Yeah, what you cannot find now on Google Maps. The goose that laid the golden eggs. Yeah, it's about the man who got greedy and was not prepared to live like a billionaire. He wanted to be a trillionaire, so he cut the goose open and tried to find the eggs inside. That's God, who's in charge of all of the fertility issues for all of the people like Michael Ancram and Henry VIII that cannot have male children. Okay? Let's keep going down. And there's the hunting lodge. The last time I looked for it, you get much more pictures the last time I looked for it. There's the deer jokes about the Elkins family that are the Rothschild family. Yeah, and I had no insight until I looked for Dr. Potter in the book that Dr. Potter is a Rothschild. Yeah, that's the Potter's Ashes. That is Pottersville in my favourite movie about the ordinary people of the world being able to afford private homes, yeah, and mortgages, yeah, and everything that the Rothschilds do now to asset strip every student across Britain. Yeah, it's the worst deal in the whole of the European continent now, and all of that is run by the Russell Group mafias. Yeah, with Manning and Buller being the head of Imperial College, with Lord Kerr of Kinlochar, massive thieves and crimes against the youngsters. Okay, it's beautiful, and it's just like the sound of music, and it is the same fucking story. Yeah, and the elk horns for Braveheart, and for the man that we talked about yesterday, the Schindler's List actor, Liam Neeson, in the movie about Archie Louse and all of the Cunningham's treason in Dundee. Yeah, that's Lord Charles Guthrie, NATO's Field Marshal on the NN Rothschild Bank since Tony Blair made him appear in 2000, 4 years before Tony Blair and George W. Bush, yeah, took them into Iraq against democracy's will. Let's see what else you see on the pictures. Okay, so lovely looking Austrian hinterland pictures, beautiful places. The Innsbruck place, that is the birthplace on the river Am Inn for Hitler and for Pope Benedict, yeah, is massive. Yeah, that is the Innsbruck joke, no room at the inn for Jesus. And the hunting lodge for the Goslings takes you into my favourite films about otters and Otto the Piso Emperor that launched the Ottoman Empire. And this morning we have a Turkish finely cut moon. Yeah. Yeah, at the moment you cannot see the moon because the clouds are still patchily covering up all of these horrendous. There's Crown Prince Rudolf of Austria, son of Emperor Franz Joseph, who lived in that Mayerling hunting lodge. Yeah, the totally shameful launch. Yet the Archduke was killed on the Hume Bridge in Sarajevo. Jim Hume and the pacifist philosopher of the Borders region, yeah, right next door to my mates who run the fishery down the river, that are the Millers, yeah, and were going to employ me for a time, but the elite boss came down on them like a pile of red bricks. Yeah, it's absolutely ruthless. So let me show you the Rothschild homes in Austria. Yeah, this is their official account of that. Okay, there's the listing of them. The Theresa Nungas, yeah, that's the gas chambers in all of the jokes. It's the suburbs and the region in the town. Huygas, Prince Eugene, yes, that's the eugenics industry that brings together the gas in the showers. Look at Schindler's List and watch the showers scene. They think that they are going to be executed, and it's the same jokes. Yeah, I don't know whether or not there was a genocide in World War II. It could just be Freemasonic jokes, but highly unlikely. Yeah, Plussel gas. Yeah, and it may well have been the Gentiles that are the victims, because all of the Jewish scams that still thrive all around the world are massive. Plussel Gasse, Hunting Lodge Gostling an der Ibs. Yeah, that's a Rothschild owned property. Rickenau, Römischer Kaiser. Yeah, Kaiser Bill. Yeah, and all of the issues of the Mackays of Scotland, yeah, who get the disabilities and have the people with the thalidomide children, yeah, and are claimants to the throne up here, yeah. Schillersdorf, Schloss Enzelfeld, Weidenhofen an der Ibs. Can you see the St. Abbs linkage, the Abba linkage, and all of the relentless jokes about there being no God, shared by the Grimm brothers out of Göttingen, which means no God. Let me show you some pictures of those before Butcher Harris, yeah, the RAF man brought them down. That's the Harrises of Butlins, my neighbours and my persecutors on the River Tweed. Yeah, all of the pathologies, all of the suicides that have happened to their friends on the River Tweed, they're now beginning to realise. Yeah, Ronnie McElrath, my favourite boss in my happiest period of employment, yeah, had a minor stroke just the other week. He's my neighbour now. All of them come to monitor me. Yeah, and it's amazing, the people that delivered that note on the Spires jokes, yeah, and the owning of the Scottish Church of Scotland by the Bonner law families that were the prime ministers in Scotland, the bosses at the Clydesdale Bank, and all of the frauds that Lord Sanderson of Bowden is engaged in, yeah, they were involved in the running of Knock House, where Queen Victoria's eldest child, Princess Victoria, lived with the Duke of Argyll, who's in the Braveheart movie, showing the importance of globalised training and linguistics to steal from the whole world. Yeah, that's Brian Cox who played the role. He's the Chancellor at Dundee University, where all of my kids are in that debt pool. Right then, let's show you the properties. So this is Vienna, yeah, where the central bank was just set up, and I showed you the pictures. Okay, there it is, lovely. Theresa May perhaps be the reason why Theresa May is the Foreign Secretary. She gets involved in all of the scams about Islam and the taking of people from Britain into the death camp that is Guantanamo, yeah, that is in the tax havens just offshore from America, yeah, where all of the war victims get their testicles electrocuted, and we're not allowed to smack our babies. Yeah, and all of the beheadings that they fake up in Michael Grade's false empire of fraud run out of Norfolk. Yeah, I've got all the director numbers for them. I've got all the director numbers for the corrupted auditors that run all of these buildings as hotels, yeah, that run them now as educational institutions, and that is the family that run the BMW company that are on the Forbes rich list from Switzerland. From Germany. Okay, so in 1872, Nathaniel von Rothschild, 1836 to 1905, commissioned the French architect Jean Girette to build him a mansion in Vienna in which to house his collection of objects d'art. That's the equivalent of Jesus' relics in Waddesdon. Yeah. Okay, there's one. Next one is the hippo Jesus jokes, and the jokes about the hippos swimming in a circle in Sally Magnusson from the elite inner circle, who presents songs of praise for 30 years, yeah, and does not understand why her mum gets dementia. 24 to 26, Huygas, Vienna, Australia. Albert von Rothschild in 1876, yeah, when Albert was Queen Victoria's lover and the Rothschilds' victim in the raping chambers. Commissioned Gabriel Hippolyte, yeah, that's the Hippo PISO horses in Greek, yeah, and the Distiller's Jokes, yeah, that Michael Ancram still shares in his profiteering empire, and the distillery on Skye was going to be carpet bombed because it was threatened to be, when we were taking our holidays there, it was threatened to be a munitions depot for the Islamists. Yeah, that's the distillery on the Isle of Skye. Yeah, the architect of Wadsden Manor. Yeah, the PISO Hippo joke on Wadsden Manor, where Jesus' relics bring in the tourists and dupe them into thinking that Jesus actually lived. Yeah, Distiller, yeah, the Gabriel, yeah, the Jewish angel who visited the Virgin Mary, yeah, that's Mary Hannah Rothschild at Wadsden with Jesus' relics, and the links to the Charing Cross police and the Glasgow scams and assassination bureaus of Kevin Moore, a friend and interlocking director with Michael Ancram. Okay, and they have Corinthian pillars there, yeah, and all of the jokes about the Rothschilds leaning against the pillars as if they were Samson, yeah, and as if they were humans, yeah, not the gods in the financial services frauds that lead to all wars, all missions, and all the Jewish massacres and the Christian massacres in World War I, World War II, and Bing Crosby's Lend-Lease jokes. Okay? Right then, Brazil. Oh, they've got the Brazilian embassy is the eugenics building that I just told you about. Okay? Prince Eugenics Gas. Yeah, the Kelso Rugby Club had a Eugene as its coach. Eugenics is the science of genocide. Yeah, that's the Cold Spring Harbour science and the Australian institutions that have now followed on. Do you get the Australian Aryan master race jokes? Yeah, 26 Prince Eugen Gas, Vienna, Austria. The house there was built for Albert von Rothschild by the architects Ferdinand and Hermann Helmer, Ferdinand Fellner and Hermann Helmer in 1894. Its position next door to Albert's main residence suggests that it was intended as an annex at 2426 Huygas. Many of its architectural features recalled the Austrian Baroque, the vast iconic pilasters, for example, and the atlases framing a monumental door, and it owed much to Viennese palaces of the 17th century. The house is now the Brazilian fucking embassy for the Great Train Robbery and Ronnie Briggs's story in Hertfordshire, yeah, and Buckinghamshire, where all of the Hancocks told me all about Christine Keeler and Ronnie Briggs, and we visited the parachute place where the train robbery took place with my disloyal wife, Miss Valerie Jane Lees, nay for the Rothschilds and Jesus Hancocks. Okay, so Albert Prince Consort died. What is this? I'm not sure what this is. So this is one of the massive Viennese villas, and there's the story about Queen Victoria and the Rothschilds killing Albert. Yeah, he got influenza or pneumonia. They kept all of the windows open and they actually executed him. Yeah, because he's the owner of all of the world's stories. Yeah, Prince Albert of Saxe Coburg. That's why they have to change the name to Windsor really quick. Yeah, yeah. Do you get it? He's the Bertie. Yeah, he's not innocent. He's in the bloodline that is the Albertine and Ernestine German ownership of the whole world that joke. yeah, that leads to the Bushes from Germany, the Trumps from Germany. It's the the Christ Trumps from Germany. Yeah, and the Trump card is part of the financial services joke. Okay, Prince Albert, the death of Queen Victoria's beloved. Yeah, it's the stories that she was forced to write, or the New World Order write for her. That is the role of the elite writers, and that's the reason that my wife left that book in my living room. Yeah, all of the jokes about Enid Blyton, her greatest hero, and all of the museums to all of those false authors, since Tacitus was the Piso person, but Piso was clever enough to write his own propaganda under the name Josephus. Yeah, that's the Josephus links to the Loeb Classic Library, and that is all of the jokes about the Treaty of Worms and the Loebs. Yeah, and that is the choice of the people that are in the Odessa movies as just covers for the owners of the publishing empire that try to get the real truth out about the Piso fraud. That's Douglas Vogt and the actor John Voight, who played the Midnight Cowboy, and the Odessa laundered the Nazis into Latin America. Yeah, it's a massive set of repeating crimes. Yeah, and all of the fascists get shipped out. And can you see the Bavarian links to the Aryan master race? Okay, so that's the killing of the poof who wore. I met the man who's from the border region that is the Wells estate that was dispossessed by from Stuart Usher. Yeah, the massive 65,000 acres that he owned. Yeah, he was in the pub last night, and when I started telling him about the pictures of Prince Albert's chain on his penis that meant he could not have sex with Queen Victoria, he walked away in a disgusted manner. Yep, that's the naming of his place called Wells, and the links to the burgers of Germany. Yeah, and that is, if he wants to be on my side, he's got to be more outspoken than he was last night. Thank you to the people of Heaton and the UK energy companies for telling me all about the inside scams of those massive wind power scams and the costs of that. Yeah, the massive asset stripping by the government figureheads of all of the big six energy companies. That is John Major, in charge of my biggest enemies who have shut down my energy and have put me on a meter. Yet he's in charge at Centrica. Salmon's people in Spain are in charge. That's Alex Salomon Rothschild's people are Spanish people who are in charge of the company that runs my electricity supply and my gas supply, and that has been entirely crashed. And the man that did that, yeah, when we were talking to the police from Duns at the front door of my house, he went round the back with his locksmith's gear and absolutely totally burnt out my boiler. Yeah, and he's had a massive stroke. He's barely able to walk along. Seen him in wheelchairs. Yeah, and God is really, really powerful, as Michael Ancram knows since he had his heart attack. Right then, here's a Stables joke. Right then, and that's the Rothschild archive again. Yeah, the biggest mistake. Stables for the Albert Piso horses, and it's the Puzzle gas. Yeah, the Pios Plussel gas joke. Yeah, every time you get a P and an L like Plymouth near the Isle of Wight, yeah, it is the Piso joke. Yeah, it's the pious joke. It is the Claire Perry joke for the MP for Devizes. It's the Life of Pi. It's the American Pie in the jokes about the fanny. Yeah, and Jack the Ripper cutting that part of the female victims out of their bodies. Yeah, it's quite ruthless, it's quite sinister that that becomes the blood on their hands in Glamis Castle for Macbeth. And the three witches have just walked past, as they do every day. Right then, so this is the Rothschilds' Confessions. Plussel Gas, Vienna, Austria, with the PI at the beginning. Yet for the pinstripes, this building and brick and stone, which still stands today, was probably used as stables for the PISO horses, or an annex to Salbert's house. Yeah, that's the salting of the water. Yeah, and it's just amazing how funny they think it is. When I first met Dr. Potter in the Berkhamsted region for Charles de Gaulle, yeah, he sat on a table and the table totally collapsed. Yeah, it was one of those tables that you get outside the pubs. Yeah, that's the Publius Piso joke. Yeah, and he sat on it the first day he was introduced to me, and his rear hit the ground really quickly. Yet he's the nerve gas expert that is the Rothschild of Hertfordshire. Yet I had no idea that the Potters were actually Rothschilds until last night. Yeah, and that was when I bought the books from Anik. Yeah, that is the Percy family, who are Perseus in the Roman court, way back in those biblical fraud days. And Dr. Potter was an old cove like that. They are the launch of the Germanic nerve gases and all of the demonisation of the Kaiser in World War I. All of those vicious weapons were shared with all of sides for profit and to get the numbers down in those massive places near Verdun and all of the crime scenes. That's Verdun, where Michael Ancram's, the first Marquis of Lothian, was trained at the university there. Yeah, like all of the pilgrims, he was trained also in Leiden. Really quite sinister, and that becomes Pottersville in my favourite movie. And the joke about George Bailey and the Bailey Bridges and everything that happens, yeah, to the engineering corps that risk their lives all over the world. Okay, here's the Von Rompuy jokes. Yeah, there's Von Rompuy. There's the Belgian icon for the 12 tribes that are the tribes of Denmark. Yeah, and that is the joke about all of the NATO officials being in charge of Denmark. It's the jokes about the actresses, who are the sexiest women in the world, called Connie Nielsen, who plays the devil's daughter, who plays the emperor's sister in Treasonous Rome. Yeah, and she is the one who wears the little blue dress in Treasonous Rome, which is the story about Eva Braun and Hitler Rothschild escaping down the River Spree. Yeah, and it becomes the joke about Bill Clinton being shagging Monica Lewinsky in the little blue dress, and when he spills his sperm on her dress, it's the rabbit shape for Winston Churchill. Yeah, and Lagos of Macedonia, way back before all of the Arsenal Football Club, Pharaohs in the story, and in Elizabeth Taylor's massive movies about Egypt, where she's the lover of Mark Antony and all Rhodes and Caesar. Yeah, and he's played by another Harris, who's able to speak to the animals in the Dr. Dolittle joke. Like Pope Francis and Francis of Assisi. Yeah, that's the assassination jokes about Christianity being run by the sword with the Christian icon on the handle. Yeah, and that's the Grimm brothers were professors from Göttingen, which means no God, and that woman is showing her Piso pie in German green scantily clad gear, like the woman who was the Lilies of the Field singer. She was in the German back room, that's Marlene Dietrich, and she was in love with a professor like me who was really gullible and was only interested in her silken underwear. Yeah, all of that becomes the guess what the boys in the back room will have, and when she goes to America it becomes the vaudevilles in the cowboy films featuring James Stewart, the actor. Yeah, and I forget what the film was called.